So you are fresh off marching in the Celebrate Israel parade. I saw you on Twitter alongside the governor, the mayor, multiple UN ambassadors, congresspeople. What was the highlight for you, and how do you think it went?
Look, the parade is something incredibly unique. This is the first time that I've been in charge of the parade, and I've marched in the parade as a parent with kids. And what the parade does, and this year in particular, is to bring together the entire spectrum of Jewish life to be in one place at one time on one day on the most iconic street that there is in the world, Fifth Avenue. And that is not something we should take for granted. And we are a very fractured Jewish community. We have a lot of different opinions. And it's hard. When it comes to Israel, particularly, this is a community, as we have an Israeli society, that's very divided and fractured. What the parade says is that sometimes you have to put that aside and come together. And I don't know if you saw, there were op-eds in the lead up to the parade, incredibly important, from one Republican council member, one Democrat, from rabbis, 2 Orthodox rabbis, 2 conservative rabbis, and a leading Reform rabbi, saying, this is a space, the parade is a space where we can come together as a community and say, we'll celebrate Israel. We may disagree the rest of the year, but this is a time. And also we had members of the Knesset, one from Likud, one from Labour, also wrote a joint op-ed saying exactly the same thing. That's why the parade is important. And it's part of community relations, it's part of unifying the Jewish people and having a common place. That's what JCRC is about, that's what the parade today was about, and I am just so pleased to be here with so many people who I know were engaged in the parade and engaged in that work of bringing the community together.
Yeah, certainly an amazing show of unity, so thank you for sharing that. Now, it also comes at a time when anti-Semitism is on the rise, especially here in New York City. The NYPD saying they saw a 93% increase in anti-Semitic incidents between May and January of this year compared to last year. What is the JCRC doing to address the spike?
So JCRC, we look at this from 2 different angles, 2 different approaches. On the one side, we believe in security and law enforcement. We have a team called the Community Security Initiative that we founded together with New York UJA Federation. 10 people. Now, a few years ago, guys, folks, everyone should understand, a few years ago in the New York Jewish community, JCRC did not have a security. There has one person who dealt with security. We live in a different world now. When I first came to New York, what I loved was you could just walk into any shul you wanted and just go, the doors were open and you just walked right in. And I came from Europe and I said, wow, I can just go to any shul, this is awesome. Now, fast forward 30 years later, you can't do that anymore. So one part of what we do is security and working with NYPD to deal with hate crime. The other side of that is community building. And we have a whole program of working with communities, ethnic communities, communities of faith, communities of color, part of New York, to address issues together about hate crime. Because at the end of the day, hate crime's not just law enforcement, it's also education. And again, just not to come back to the parade, but for those of you who are at the parade today, guys, everyone there? For those of you who are at the parade today, if you were there at the end of the parade, there was a big, huge float with a big sign that said, Brooklyn Churches United for Israel. A group of churches, people of color, who came to the parade directly from services. On Sunday, oh, well, we didn't know if they would come the first time. They're people that we work with about combating hate. So we said to them, we would invite you to come to the Celebrate Israel parade. Be part of the dialogue. They said yes. I rode on the float up Fifth Avenue with music playing, parishioners walking behind. That comes from dialogue, and that's one of the ways that we deal with hate through dialogue with communities in New York.
And something to be proud of, for sure. And that touches on my next question, which is your organization is also about outreach to people who are not Jewish. And you are starting trips again to Israel to bring leaders outside of the community. Tell me about who you're looking to bring. We know Mayor Adams went on one of these trips many years ago. And what is the purpose of that?
So for the trips, the study tours to Israel, we make very clear to the people that we bring, these are not propaganda trips. We're not trying to get people to go to Israel and come back and wave a flag and say, it's all easy, there's only one side, because that doesn't work in today's world. I don't know if it worked 20 years ago, but it certainly doesn't work today. The world's a lot more complicated and people understand. What we want is people to go and understand the complexity of the Middle East, so that when they hear about BDS and what BDS and the case for BDS, they've already seen what Israel looks like and what the Palestinian Authority looks like, and they see the complexity. And that's what we want people to do, is to embrace the complexity. And we take people who are elected officials, council members, officials, many officials who are today are committed on issues like Mayor Adams or Representative Richie Torres. Richie Torres made his first visit to Israel with JCRC when he was 26, 27 years old as a council member. Before Richie Torres was known as the incredible leader that he is today, he was a young council member. He went on one mission and then he went on a second mission. He learned the complexity of the Middle East. That's what educating people by bringing those people to Israel, and it's a gateway. So they see what happens, and it's a gateway to our connection. And it's not only about Israel. They learn about Jewish history. They go to Yad Vashem. They understand what Jewish history is. So those visits are about building a connection, a relationship, and for so many officials have been on those trips.
Do you know if the governor will go? Kathy Hochul.
We believe she will at some point. She's obviously a little busy at the moment, but she's certainly very committed. She had a trip planned to Israel that didn't work out because of COVID. So she certainly knows Israel well. She's a committed supporter. We saw her today, and she is so engaged on Israel. And whenever I call her on any issue relating to Israel or relating to hate crime, she is right there. And we are so fortunate to have such leaders in New York who are so committed on these issues. And we work closely to be in contact with them.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much, Gideon, and congratulations on a successful parade.
Thank you.
Thank you.